Turning our attention now to the other big story that we are deep diving into today on India Global, which is around the Rohingya issue. There is fresh update coming in that 60,000 Rohingyas have now gone inside Bangladesh. They've entered Bangladeshi territory because of what has been happening the last couple of weeks, which is that Rakhine army has taken control of key posts inside Rakhine state. This comes even as Bangladeshi government and Mohammad Yunus himself have very categorically said that they are not going to allow any more Rohingya refugees to come in. Why? Because they already house over about 1 million refugees. There are no exact data. It could be more than that. Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh has one of the largest refugee camps in the world, bigger than what's happened, bigger than the ones in Sudan, in fact, also. So can they, in fact, absorb any more is a different question. But the larger question here is the implication of what's happening in Myanmar. There is a security angle and there is a humanitarian angle to it. It's not just Bangladesh alone. It gets impacted from India as well, because there are about 40,000 Rohingya refugees in India as well. All right, let's now get in guests this evening. Dr. Constantino Xavier joining me from what used to be earlier Brookings and is now CSEP. And we also have Professor Sanjay Bhardwaj joining us to really decode the impact of this from a strategic, humanitarian and a larger political point of view as well. Constantino, let me start with you. The Rohingya crisis is not new. It's been going on since 2017. India also houses about 40 to maybe 50,000 Rohingyas. But the question is, the volatility in the Myanmar region right now is set to expand further, and this crisis could probably become even bigger than what it is right now, with Bangladesh refusing to cooperate, putting up its hands saying they cannot do it anymore. How do you see this crisis being handled from here on?
Very difficult situation indeed. Rarely do we see a regional crisis come together this way. I say regional because there's a collapse of governance in Myanmar. The Myanmar State Council and army are now in control of less than half of the territory of their country. That reflects in Rakhine state, as you said, with a growing civil war happening there. You also have in Bangladesh a transition that is in process, that is not easy. In fact, I wonder whether Bangladesh's position now to say that it's not able to host more Rohingya refugees is also a reflection of growing concerns about the Bangladeshi economy, about its capacity to host close to 1 million refugees in what is the largest refugee camp in the world, and receive even more, because they should be worried about not only the 60,000 who have come now over the last year to 2 years, but many more refugees that may on their way. And finally, this is a regional crisis also, because as you rightly said, it affects many more countries beyond Myanmar and Bangladesh. It affects India. You mentioned 40 to 50,000. Those are the ones we know of officially. There may be many more Rohingyas already in the country or transiting to the country. We have significant camps in Malaysia, in Thailand. We saw recently Rohingya boats showing up on the coasts of Sri Lanka. So in many ways, this is a complex crisis affecting the entire region, and which is giving, I think, clear warnings that it could escalate and affect everyone in this region.
Right. Let's get in Professor Sanjay also on this. The fact is that these are recent entrants into Bangladesh at a time when Bangladesh itself is struggling. How do you see the Rohingya crisis being handled going forward? It's clearly not something that's a Bangladesh issue. It's not just an India issue. As Constantino was also mentioning, boats have actually reached even on Sri Lankan shores. How do you see this crisis being addressed as a regional humanitarian disaster that needs to be handled?
Let me put in this way. This is a regional security issue, and entire Eastern South Asia region is affected by this Rohingya influx in this region. That you can see that this is long-going problem that is happening, and number of the people has been persecuted, had been forced to migrate not only towards Bangladesh and India, but they are also going to other parts of the world in Southeast Asia. You can say Indonesia, Thailand, and some of them they are also moving to Andaman Nicobar. So this is a long-going problem. But there are three very important issues and challenges are emerging in this region. Number one is, of course, that these people, Rohingyas, they are around 1.8 million people. They are living in Chittagong division near Cox's Bazar, Ukhia. There are camps that you can see thousands of people they are living. They are stateless people, educationless, societyless, morality, and all that. And these people have been radicalized by the extremist elements based in Chittagong and that area. And they are trained in a way that they can fight against the Arakan army. There are also stories, coming reports are coming that the military junta is also recruiting some of the Rohingyas to fight against the Arakan army. Arakan army is also alleging that these people, they have been recruited by the
Yes.
by Rohingya Salvation Army and Rohingya solidarity organizations for the radical one. The third very important issue is arising that these people, they have also been involved in drug trafficking, human trafficking, that you can see that Yaba pills has been exported
Exactly,
from
yes.
the
There are
porous border. So this region has become very volatile, problematic, and that is not stopping just to the Bangladesh, that is reaching to northeast and India's
indeed.
some of the states.
I was coming to just that. And I asked this to Constantino, which is that there are direct security implications for India as well. In this, what should be New Delhi's 1, 2, 3 key areas or action points to try and minimize? You can't insulate, but you can minimize the impact of this kind of a refugee crisis on India.
So one solution that has already been adopted is participate more closely in dialogues across the region between governments, officials. In fact, the Foreign Secretary was just in Bangkok recently for a meeting on Myanmar with the 5 neighboring countries of Myanmar. And that is a good development because it puts India not only on a bilateral path to solve this, but also into a regional club of like-minded countries who are all very concerned. Thailand is concerned. China is also very concerned, of course, for its investments. I think a second possibility is what the Thais created a couple of years ago, which was a humanitarian corridor. This worked partially between Thailand and Myanmar, and it had buy-in from the generals in Myanmar, but it allowed the Thais to channel humanitarian aid, food supplies, and other support for the civilian populations in southeastern Myanmar. Something like this could, for example, be developed between India and Myanmar, or maybe between Bangladesh and Myanmar. The third and most difficult one is, of course, India normalizing its relationship with Bangladesh. Any solution in Myanmar and a solution for the Rohingyas and for the Rakhine to return to stability. And let's not forget that India has a diplomatic mission in the Rakhine state and its own presence on the ground, including a variety of projects, economic connectivity project that it has invested in and it needs to protect. So for that to happen, also, I think a good relationship between New Delhi and Dhaka needs to develop. We are far from it. We saw that. But a solution to Myanmar and the Rohingya issue will rely on Bangladeshi's buy-in. A Bangladeshi buy-in, in turn, will only happen significantly or with greater sustainability if it has Indian support, and that in turn relies on a good India-Bangladesh relationship.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking out the time and joining me in an issue that we're going to touch upon, hopefully, given that it touches upon so many lives due to the humanitarian disaster that we're all staring at. Thank you.